What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bomb
I think
Squad.
most people would not like this.
What's up, guys?
continue.
Welcome to the Bomb Squad. Josh loves peer pressure and doing whatever the crowd does. He just admitted it. But some of us don't like to do that. And you're going to find out what side you're on tonight as we do the final battle between good and evil. Josh being evil. Welcome to the Bomb Squad, guys. We haven't even gotten to the commercial yet. That's how fun things are going.
Hello.
I'm Andrew Hara. I'm the director of The Empty Space. I'm here with my composer, William Murdoch, and I'm here with the resident hater, Joshua Whitney. Joshua,
take it this time.
Your social security number and your date of birth. So introduce yourself to the crowd. Welcome to the Bomb Squad. We talk about movies that are underrated or overhated, but this month we're taking a little bit of a break. Well, kind of. These movies are gonna be underrated because no one's ever heard of them. So this week we're talking about, or this whole month, we're doing a theme of banned movies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, banned is kind of like cheeky in that, like, some of them aren't banned. Like, this one is not technically banned. And we already kind of started this with Suspiria. We talked about how that movie was very hard to find in America for like 20 years. And so, like, that's the thing. We're going to talk about movies that were very hard to find. A lot of them were banned for one reason or another. Or just like, you'll find out a little bit more. But yeah, we're talking about those movies that were hard to find, that maybe don't have that many reviews. And today we're talking about a cult classic. We're talking about 2007's The Poughkeepsie Tapes, which was kind of banned. And we're going to talk about how it was banned when we get back from this commercial break.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Bomb Squad. Please give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support our channel, other than that, the best way to do it right now is to watch our movies. We have the boxing documentary Humble Spirits. We have the Mexploitation thriller Borderland about missing cartel money. Those movies are both on Tubi. Also on Tubi and Screambox, you can watch the zombie drama, The Last Ones. And of course, The Empty Space, a cosmic horror about grief and loneliness. We hope you enjoy those movies. Tell us what you think if you do watch them. And of course, you can always follow my other YouTube page, which is my shorts page, to see some short films. Or just join us here. Thank you so much again, and please keep supporting the channel.
Welcome back, guys. So we're talking about our first banned movie and our banned movie theme. How many times can I say banned? We'll find out. So today we're talking about the Poughkeepsie Tapes from 2007, rated R.
Yeah, it's a hard R. Well,
that's
weird to say.
Yeah, it's not that hard of an R. But anyway, it was directed by John Eric Dowdle.
Something like that.
He went on to direct Quarantine and So Far, So Below, or whatever that movie's called.
Oh, As Above.
He also wrote it
Below.
with As Above, So Below. He also wrote it with his brother Drew Dowdle. Hey, parents, come on. Come on, man. Give him a little break here. Give him a little break.
Please.
Starring Stacy Chbosky, Ben Messer, and Samantha Robson. I don't think that's Samantha Robson. Not the one that was married, that was dating Lindsay Lohan. A different.
Oh. Well, you never know.
Yeah, a bunch of no names, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, before. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. Well, we'll talk about it in a second. But before we talk about why this movie was banned, Josh, I mean, he's dying to talk about this film. So he's gonna break it down.
Can you accurately describe this movie in the first 10 minutes without the YouTube censors kicking in? Because
we'll try.
You could do like the newspaper clipping, like the city newspaper.
A serial killer kills and does other things to several women.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the movie.
And they're after him.
So let's talk about this movie. So I will give you my personal experience. I remember seeing a preview to this movie in what must have been 2007.
I remember seeing trailers in theaters.
Yeah. They did show it in trailers. So, and then like they had a poster in it was like not the best theater, but they had a poster in the theater, like posters coming soon. And that poster sat there for like almost 2 years, and and then they just took it down, sadly. But that's kind of what happened to the movie. So this movie was released, or it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2007. It got a lot of good reviews, and it had a lot of buzz. And so MGM at the time was going to release it, me make sure I'm getting all these facts right, because then people are gonna be like, you don't know what you're talking about, and it's true. I just want to make sure it was MGM. Oh, Metro, yeah, MGM. Wanted to release it in February 2008, which is why they kind of pushed these commercials. And then, like 2 months before it was supposed to be released, they pulled it from the schedule. It was never, they've never officially said why. So there's also like this movie, as Josh said. I mean, it's going to get pretty hardcore with our discussion of it, but it's very dark, and it's presented as a real documentary. So there's no like kind of tongue in cheek parts of it, which we'll get to more. So it got this reputation almost immediately, especially because of the nature of the film, where it's about like they find a bunch of these killers' tapes, and so we're watching the tapes. So you have that kind of already that storyline. Then the fact that it got pulled from theaters like 2 months before, it gives it this. It automatically gave it like a reputation of being, oh man, they must have pulled it because it was so scary. Which I'm sure that the movie wanted it to be. And then for some reason, again, I also noticed this in about 2014, it got released on DirecTV on demand, and that's it.
Oh,
and I remember
that's
even
crazy.
seeing it on DirecTV on demand, and I was like, "Is that the Poughkeepsie Tapes
Yeah.
the movie came out?" And I did not believe it, so I didn't rent it at the time.
Oh.
And then eventually in 2007, William, these are not enthusiastic. Like, wow.
Well, then tell me a good story. No, I'm just
and
kidding.
then in 2017, it was finally released on DVD and Blu-ray. Now it's on Tubi, is where we saw it. It's also like, if you look at it, it was on every single streaming platform, like Tubi, Amazon. But recently, the director and the writer, the brothers, they came out and they said one of the other things that happened was that MGM wanted to do like a huge release, and the brothers were kind of getting worried because and we'll even talk about it, but it's not that kind of movie that should really be released on a huge scale.
Yeah, I'm
like,
surprised they even tried to do that.
Yeah.
Like, whenever this movie starts and like the MGM Grand thing comes up with the lion, I'm just like, this isn't the movie that follows the MGM lion. Like, what?
Yeah. And so they were a little worried about it, but then they had put it in, after Tribeca, they put it in another film festival. And that other film festival presented it as if it was a real documentary. Like, it wasn't tongue in cheek. They just said this is a real documentary against the wishes of the director. And then because of how poorly that reception was, because people were like, you're trying to trick us, this is bullshit. They ended up pulling the movie from that festival, and MGM was already having trouble trying to figure out how to market this.
Yeah.
And then so they were like, we're just gonna pull it and we just won't show it. But now that I'm thinking about it, that doesn't make a lot of sense because they had already started marketing. Like, their trailers were out and the poster was out.
Yeah, there must have been like some conflict inside the studio or something. Like, there was somebody who was like, we can't release this or something, like, and they finally won, maybe.
Yeah, well, now that we've gone through why it was banned, eventually it got released. Now we're here. Now we're in 2025 watching it and talking to you.
Yeah.
That's a Spaceballs joke. But what did you guys think of this film? I think Josh is the only. Wait, William, had you seen it? I think you guys.
No, yeah, I thought I had seen it, but I had never seen this before. And, like, dude, it was dark. It was like, because it just felt real. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, it wasn't even like really that violent or like gory, and there wasn't even like a lot of like cussing at all. But it's just like the vibe was like so, like, just effed up. I guess we don't want to say. I don't want to swear too early on the podcast, but it was just like so gross. I feel like I shouldn't be watching it. You know what I mean? Like, it had that kind of vibe.
And we'll get to the violence in a little bit. It's also kind of hard to talk about this film because, like I said, it's presented as like a true crime. It's just funny because, like, at the time, I mean, 60 Minutes and all that has always been pretty popular, but like, there was always this kind of air of like responsibility with 60 Minutes and with like Dateline and stuff. Where now Netflix is like, oh yeah, we'll definitely release a documentary about the Fyre Fest that's being produced by the producers of the Fyre Fest. That's not going to be a comedy.
Yeah.
And so I feel like one of the cool things about this movie is that it almost feels a little bit more relevant with how...
Yeah, it's like ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I would say it in a derogatory way, but yeah, it feels more modern.
Well, I think that's kind of... One of the things is... So it's we're following this. They found this house, and this killer had 800 videotapes. He calls himself Ed, and every one of his videotapes is a murder of his. So we're like, it's starting. We're talking to we're introducing the town. We're introducing the people of the town. We're introducing the FBI informant guy. Of course, has a big role, and
Yeah.
he's in front of. One of the great things about this movie, which is hard because you're never going to see it in our video podcast. Maybe I'll put a picture, is how well they managed to do the cheesy documentary lighting where there's a part where there's one of the cop guys and he's sitting at a desk, and behind him it just has the bars of light that they put in film school
For sure,
to
for sure. Yeah.
be more visually dynamic.
Yeah.
I think that helps, and it also kind of helps, I think, with how 1990s it looks.
Yeah.
It helps with how much because like we said, the actors, nobody's heard of any of these actors, and so they are they range from amateur to oh, they can pull that off, to oh, that's just how that guy acts regardless, you know.
Yeah. I mean, all the cops felt pretty
but-
real. Like all the cops that they were fake interviewing, they all
And-
seemed like real cops.
and that's what I'm gonna say, it ends up helping the movie because they just come off real stilted.
Yeah.
But they're not if it's a cop, yeah, he doesn't talk in front of the camera that often. So it helps kind of sell that performance in a way that I think this was a more straightforward film, and it had this many characters, it would have been harder to buy some of the stuff.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Like the intensity of everything. Yeah.
Well, let's see. We're at 10 minutes. Let's keep going. I eventually do want to talk about the violence, but I want to get us there. I think one of the first things that happens is, speaking of the violence, is he because we see one of the videotapes, and in one of the first videotapes, he meets a little girl. And I think one of the other good things about this movie.
Oh yeah, that
is
first scene
how
was fucked up. That was crazy.
Yeah. William waited just till 10
Oh,
minutes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost
Is
like
that is
they-
that the time limit? Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't even
in a
mean to
way
say
that
it.
almost works against it, because the very first thing is him talking to a little girl, and then you don't see what happens because you can't show violence against children.
Yeah, I was
But
glad
then
they
they're
didn't.
oh,
I
by
was
the
like,
way,
oh my god. Dude,
by the way, he
what's gonna
grabbed
happen?
her and
Yeah, he punches
did
her in the
everything
head.
horrible
He does something. He threw
you
the
could
hammer or
do.
something.
Yeah, well, since we're here, I do think that is one of the points against this film. I don't think necessarily because of you can't show that violence. I think it's because this movie was made for $200,000, and the amount of
Well, no, I'm not gonna say the effects are whatever. It's that all works well. It's more that you start there and it never goes down or up. It just stays at that level. You're never oh, this is building in murder intensity. It's no, it's every murder
But I
in
don't
this
think
torture
the
scene is
movie-
horrible.
But it's
You know what I mean?
but
I,
don't think
I
this
feel
movie's
like you had the
trying to
opposite.
build intensity.
I think it sustains that level. I wouldn't say that it never
Yeah.
fluctuates. I would say it somehow is
Yeah.
able to stay that heightened. the
I
whole
guess
time.
it's more if you just put on YouTube videos of serial killer realistic and watched 8 of them in a row. It's kind of this is what it would be.
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
there's
that's
no
true. I mean,
it
that's a
doesn't,
good thing, though. You're
build upon itself.
that would be a
it's
harrowing
trying to
experience.
be the thing that it's. Yeah, you're
Right. No, it's it's doing it's purposeful, but it's not
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Well,
It's
Oh,
just
for sure.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Is that but what I was gonna say is one of the funny things about this movie, that it's really the biggest suspension of disbelief, and I think it's the thing that probably breaks a lot of people, is that okay, so it's this big killer. Now that we're 15 minutes in, I'm just gonna say it. It's this big killer. He starts off by killing a kid.
Yeah.
He's going to kill a bunch of people. We see him kill a bunch of, but because the film clearly could not, there's one scene with a special effect and it looks terrible.
Which one?
And so the one where she cuts the throat.
Oh yeah, you can barely
Well,
even
it's
see
also
it, too.
super grainy.
Yeah.
It's super
Yeah,
grainy footage, so that actually works in its favor.
Well,
of,
it hurts because
authenticity.
we know how much blood comes out.
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
So it doesn't work. But I think so. It ends up being every time he kills someone, he's
Yeah, it's always off screen. Yeah.
And it makes it so that it's wait, you're telling me you never caught yourself kill? I know he sets up the camera and does his actions, but it's you never caught yourself killing someone? That's a little bit far-fetched to believe. And
Yeah.
he's so obsessed with people, because the motivation of this killer is that he wants to become his own urban legend. So he's making these tapes to kind of spread his legend around.
Yeah.
We
And
should
so
also
because
say
this-
he's he's like a super genius kind of. Like he has
Well,
like these crazy clues that are like
Yeah,
it's
he knows
very
how to play
like
the system.
if Zodiac had like a 300 IQ, it's like
Right,
he's doing
right.
sign language into the security cameras.
Oh
and
yeah,
shit
yeah,
like
I
that.
forgot
yeah.
about that part.
It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Yeah.
it's a little
I don't know if
creepy
that makes him a
pasta.
genius.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I
even the
mean
cops kind of say that he is. Like whenever they're like talking about like
that's
he's
kind of
it's
what the
kind of like
movie
later in the
becomes about.
movie,
Is
I
like
guess. But
I
well,
do think
it's he's like he's so smart. He changes his mo every time. It's like
Yeah.
with Patrick Bateman, and he was an idiot.
he like
you
understands
know?
like
Yeah.
profiling, so he can like unprofile and reprofile himself at will.
It's just
See, and I think it's like maybe it's because I've seen so much true crime, but hey, I never believe whatever the cops say because they're always dumb as hell. But
This
then
movie in point.
you also have like because like it's that thing where and I think that also kind of hurts it a little bit is that these guys clearly love true crime and they follow it.
Yeah,
And so it's like that thing where like every time you see a killer, they're always like, "Oh man, he changed his MO. That means he's a genius." But it's like, no, the Night Stalker changed his MO like 3 times, and he was like clinically, mentally like impaired. Like he did
Yeah.
not have brain power.
right,
It's not like-
right.
But it's that thing where cops always want to be like they can't ever chase a serial killer. It's like, oh no, he was just some junkie who had a bunch of junkie friends kill random people. It's like, no, Charles Manson had a cult and he was a genius who couldn't. No one could stop him.
yeah.
Except
right,
the only time
right, but like I guess it's where like the film presents because it's not a real story. It's like you're essentially
Right.
taking it on its own
Well,
terms.
and I
you
think
know?
that's the thing that I kind of want to present to you guys because it becomes a thing where, to me, one of the reasons I like this movie is because it ends up being a critique of the true crime genre, where it takes cops at its word, and the cops are clearly wrong because they get like everything wrong during the investigation,
Mhm.
but it also like they keep showing the murders and like they're showing like because at one point so the whole first part is just setting up the killer. The main crux of the film is that he finds this teenager and he kidnaps her and then he kind of turns her into his little minion
Yeah.
through the worst ways possible. It's also the scariest parts of the movie because
Yeah,
also whoever they
yeah.
got to play the killer and the girl were like contortionists, so they like crawl on the ground like
Oh,
upside
that's
down.
interesting. Yeah,
And so it's like, oh yeah, that's a cool image.
yeah.
But they show so much, and so to me, it's like, well, I understand that they're doing it. Well, to me, it becomes this thing. It's like it's kind of critiquing of how much we like these true crime documentaries like invade people's
Sure.
lives
Yeah,
and for
that's
really
true.
no purpose.
Yeah.
Like I watched
Just for us
I
to
almost
see.
I had yeah, like I turned one off because it was about John Benet Ramsey, and it was like, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. We didn't get the parents' permissions, and it's like,
Whenever you see
yeah,
that, that's always so like, how many times did you ask, dude? Like,
yeah,
why didn't you just stop after the first
Yeah.
no? It's like, obviously, this is hard for you to talk about, and this is going to solve nothing, so I'll catch you later.
And I remember maybe it's because I was part of the news, but I remember being in the news where they'd be like, "Oh yeah, go out to that funeral and ask people how they're feeling," and it's like they feel bad.
Right. I feel like I'm at a funeral
I don't
for
need
a
to ask
child
you,
who
I
was
can
murdered.
tell.
Yeah. It's not great.
Even and so it almost becomes this critique of like because they're showing so much, it's almost critiquing how much true crime has kind of fallen. But I don't know if that was the intention of
See,
the
because this is
Yeah.
almost like pre like true crime really becoming what it is now, and I almost feel like it's almost accidentally being like this is like why true crime's bad. You
Yeah,
know?
it used to be mostly
Like, I
like
feel like-
daytime television.
And I know we're going to talk about this movie at some point, but I feel like Lake Mungo is intentionally making the same point. You know?
Yeah, that'll be
Lake
interesting to
Mungo's
see.
scary
Yeah.
as hell. Yeah.
Right? No, and then that's definitely we'll get to
And-
that later.
Yeah.
But,
See, and I think like it becomes hard because like with Lake Mungo, it's like about ghosts, ooh. But this is about like the kid gets killed at the very beginning, and so you're kind of like, okay, like it's so dark, and
like
Yeah,
where does this
yeah.
go?
And it
you
kind
know?
of has
they
the same
kidnap-
vibes. What's that movie that has Elliot Page where she gets or he gets kidnapped, and it's like a true
American
story?
and American Crime.
Yeah, and she's just like in a
yeah, but
basement.
that is a true story.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like that movie just kind
And
of had
that's
the
what
same
makes that
vibe,
horrible.
like that movie
Yeah.
in a way. Like it was like the low-fi version
Yeah,
of that. Like
but-
that's like
but-
the hardest kind of horror to watch. Is like
Right.
someone trapped in someone's basement that's like from a neighborhood. Like I feel like that's like if a horror movie is gonna make me like queasy, that's the kind of horror movie that's gonna make me feel like the
Yeah.
worst. And this one does it.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
No, I would agree with that. Although I think part of it is, and I think this is kind of like, I think we kind of talked about like this way back when we did Blair Witch 2, The Book of Shadows,
Great
where it's
movie.
like the reason that that movie was a huge flop, but the reason people love Blair Witch 1 was because they thought it was real at the time.
Yeah.
And this movie almost feels like it kind of wants to be that, where it's like, hey, if you think this is real, this is going to be like insanely scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if it's not real, then a part of me is like, well, then like, shouldn't there be more to this? Like, shouldn't there be a turn in the plot rather than just he kills?
Yeah, there's not really much
effortlessly and
of a
gets away
plot.
with it?
But
The only
see,
plot really
you know what I
involves
mean?
the girl that he gets kidnapped.
I wonder if, because like Josh, let me ask you a question. Do you like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yes.
Because that's the exact, like the things you're complaining about in that movie or in this movie, it's like the same, like because that movie's unrelenting. It doesn't really slow down, and there is no kind of getting away.
I would say there's more plot in Texas Chainsaw than this movie, though.
There's like a denouement
And
of
I
like
wonder-
they get there. It's not like he's like killing people in the first 10 minutes of the Texas
is.
Chainsaw. It builds. It's a good structure. It like draws you in with
Yeah.
this like creeping, heightening sense of dread. This movie's just at 11 the entire 80 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I
Yeah.
personally thought that was good.
I mean, yeah,
I
you're
like
making
that
it
kind
sound
of.
even better.
I'm like down for
You're
that.
making it sound better than I thought it was. But, it's
Well,
like,
I mean, at 11 in a
I
bad
was,
way.
I was
Right.
scared and pissed my pants the whole
Transformers
time.
is also at 11 in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, Howie Mandel was at 11 in Little Monsters.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Oh,
And
And I
He's-
think
yeah.
like
That movie was crazy.
I think it's that thing where
the Little
that.
Monsters
Yeah.
Poughkeepsie Tapes double
Oh my
feature.
god!
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just-
should have watched those in the same
two
night.
two extremes, three extremes. It's that thing where, and I do kind of agree to a point because I like this movie, but
Yeah.
I do feel that it does, like, once you finish watching it, you're kind of like, all right, like,
Yeah.
it's dark. It kind of shows you the worst of humanity,
Yeah.
but it's, right now it's kind of like, right now I'm reading a book about the horrors of Vietnam, and it's like, yeah, you're hearing about how bad we treated the Vietnamese while we were in that occupation, but it's the whole point of it is to kind of be like, oh well, don't let this happen again, which,
Sure.
whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this one, it almost becomes like it's hard to, unless, and maybe that's why I'm adding the whole thing about true crime, because unless there's something to say about this movie, there's not a lot to say about this movie.
Yeah, and I'm
You know,
glad you said that about
yeah,
the true
I
crime
guess
thing
that-
too, because when it was
that
over,
is-
I was like, well,
yeah.
I enjoyed it. Like, I'm more on Andrew's
Yeah.
camp than Josh's camp. But like at the end of the movie, I for sure was like, I don't know what I was supposed to get from that besides just like feeling
Yeah.
fucked up for like an hour and a
It
half.
is scary, and it is scary, and it is like, so like one of the things is then, and I will say that this part is also, this is the only part I really don't like. So at one point like I can see the sign language because like
Oh, that
at
was
one point he
cheesy. That was
signs
not great.
to
Yeah.
CCTV, and then they see it, but like the Zodiac would also do dumb shit like that all the time. But then later on, after he kidnaps the teen, then he switches his MO to start targeting streetwalkers.
Yeah.
You have to
yeah.
talk like it's the 1940s. He starts
Ladies
targeting
of the night.
girls. Yeah.
Scarlet women.
Yeah. He just wants a good time.
Come on.
And he starts doing that, and then he blames a cop,
Mhm.
and then the cop like he eventually pleads guilty because he can't fight it. And then the day he's killed, the guy kills again to show like, oh, it wasn't him.
No,
Right.
he leaves a letter in the cop's partner's mailbox to be like, you missed one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it leads to like another body that they have
Another
not
body.
found.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
the cop is, so then they put in the paper like, hey, the cops or this guy was actually innocent, but the day it happened
Yeah.
happens to be September
9/11, yeah.
They Dear Zoe'd us.
I
Which nobody
know.
understands
That's a
what
great
this
film.
is.
Watch that on
Wow.
Tubi. Dear Zoe.
Dude,
and so
Bookmark
I
it.
couldn't
It
believe
doesn't
that,
go
man.
anywhere.
Whenever it comes up and it's like,
like-
he died on September 9th, 2001, I was like,
See,
when did this movie come out?
that's like
And then it was like, the next scene, no one knew my dad was innocent because 9/11 happened.
As soon as he said no one knew my dad was innocent, I knew he was gonna say 9/11.
if this was an 8-minute like YouTube short and that's how it ended, I would have loved it. I would have been like, perfect, no
I almost
notes.
I couldn't believe
wonder
they went
if
there. That's
they should have
crazy.
ended it right there. Well, not with the like, just like as a kind of, because then I think that
Like
would have
no one
helped.
cares type of thing.
That
Yeah.
could have
Yeah.
hit the, because it's that thing where it's like we're doing this documentary to show you this worst killer of all time. He killed 800 people, maybe he did this, he did that, but then it becomes another news story, and it's not.
Right,
Like,
right.
I think that would have been a perfect ending, but that almost would have been too dark for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just tragedy after tragedy. Man.
Yeah, but the way it still happens though. I mean, it still ends in a just ridiculously like
Well,
bleak note.
and
know?
but then
track
I
his
will
house
say.
down. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Oh well, I haven't finished. Hold on. But I will say that the whole idea of him like framing a cop, then he magically that's
Yeah.
Riddler shit. It's too much. Like
It's crazy.
it's
It's a
way
little
Right,
over
and
the top.
not only that, but when they're like, oh, by the way, we used the MapQuest map that he left in this comp's mailbox, and we like contacted the administrator of MapQuest.com. I
Yeah.
don't know, whatever.
Yeah, they did
and
say
then
we called.
They reverse engineered figuring out what
Yeah.
computer this MapQuest request for this specific.
He's like-
Yeah, it was like
He's
map
like,
was
"Hi,
from.
this is M Quest."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quest.
They do a 7 where he just calls the library like FBI
Yeah.
and he would check out these books. But they go to the house and then you find out that he had planned for them to reverse search him through like
He
that.
wanted
And
us
I'm
to
like,
find it.
all right,
Because the house
he is a
has no
super
fingerprints
genius.
in it anywhere.
That's
And that's where they
Yeah.
find the tapes. That's how he leads them to the
like
tapes.
that's when to me it becomes like the everyone writes a sentence and you pass the paper around, but it's like that, but it's a bunch of like creepypasta like redditors where it's like, oh, he's like the coolest, most fucked up serial killer
Yeah.
of all time.
Yeah, but
And he'll
see,
never be caught. I'm just like, okay.
And I do think it like the whole thing hinges on how self-aware you believe the writer and the director are. Because
That's true.
Say that one more
we
time.
didn't even talk about this, or how self-aware the writer and the director are.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about this, but there's a part where they go talk to Ted Bundy, and that's such
that was
a
so
like
weird.
a mind hunter,
Yeah.
like you're just doing this for shock value thing, which again makes sense in the context, like the fact that Netflix. I'm just going after Netflix today, but the fact that Netflix did a Menendez like documentary, and to promote it, they let Ryan Murphy make up his own like wacky gay story about the Menendez brothers.
Yeah.
It's like, you didn't have to do both of these things.
Yeah.
But it's like for the Menendez brothers,
That was a
get
real
their
story. Yeah.
told, they had to like let Ryan Murphy just go down on their story.
I know, like the
And
most
it's like-
psychotic guy ever, anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
and
not
so
respectable.
it becomes this thing where it's like, did they add that Ted Bundy scene because they were like, oh, it'll be cool if Ted Bundy does the Hannibal Lecter thing on this guy,
Yeah.
and it'll show how evil he is. But was there a little part of them were like, and also it'd be kind of funny because like that's so stupid.
I feel like they would have
I
to.
don't know. I
yeah.
almost feel like part of me is like I feel like the 9/11 thing is truly like funny, and there are a couple moments like that, but it's also like so rare that I do like kind of question of like,
But
I don't know. And I know a lot of directions,
Yeah.
I feel like you guys
we're
are
not self-aware at all.
are dumb as hell.
Yeah, I agree. Some more than others. But see, then there's this other scene where he's like driving and he picks up this girl and he's like driving in a police car, and he's like, oh, you should get in the back of my car. Which again, like even that part, I'm like, I would not get in the back of a police car. Like I know the
Yeah.
doors don't close, duh. But he gets in the
Right.
back, and then they're driving and they're kind of talking, and then eventually he gets bored of it and he goes, why do you keep calling me officer? I'm not an officer.
Yeah.
And like, but
That was
the
a good
amount of
scene.
time it takes, it just like the tension is there because you know that like lady's not gonna escape. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole movie told you no one's escaping.
Right.
But it's like, when is that reveal gonna turn? And I think that's like, it's kind of like the movies. If you've seen Grindhouse, which by the box office, not many of you have. There's that scene where Kurt Russell like looks at the camera and smiles, and you're like, oh, he's gonna kill these people.
Right.
Now it's just
Right.
a matter of when. It's like the whole movie is doing that for you. Like, oh yeah, they're gonna. When is he gonna do this? Like,
Yeah.
there's a real good scene when he captures Cheryl, the teen that kind of becomes the second lead. where she's talking to her boyfriend and they're just kind of talking and like she wants to go watch a movie and he wants to fool around. And you just see the closet open like a little bit and then close and then open. And I don't even know again if that's supposed to be happening
That's
or
like
if it's
right.
Yeah.
on the set.
I guess that to me that's what's like kind of what confounds it is that like these are really good scenes. I just wish they were like building to something. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Sure,
this is
sure.
like it's more like you guys got it. You guys have made like all these really good like I'm filled with dread serial
Yeah.
killer scenes.
Yeah.
But then
yeah.
that's all it is. It doesn't like pay
Yeah,
off.
it's more like
you
it's like
know?
an exercise in atmosphere and like tension as
Yeah.
opposed to like a straight up
It's a
story
tone,
time
yeah.
telling. Which I totally understand your reasoning for like thinking that that's kind of boring. And I don't know. I guess it really just depends on like how into the weird scenes you like, how much that can carry
Serial
you versus
killer
like how
stuff.
much your patience will wane. And like
And
I was entertained. Like I liked it. I wanted to see how
Yeah.
far they would go. I wanted to see like how over the top this could be, and I was also feeling scared by it, so I wanted to see what happened. But I could totally see like watching it and being like, nothing is really happening. Like I don't really know
I will
why
say,
I'm
too,
still
this-
watching this.
and I don't know if it's just my speakers here, but I feel like the sound mixing, not during the obviously the grainy camcorder scenes, the sound's going to be all messed up because that's part of like the aesthetic. I feel like the sound mixing was a bit off in some of the like we're interviewing like people scenes where like the music was roughly the same volume as like the person talking. Am I crazy?
I
don't
didn't have any problems with
remember
that.
but I
Yeah.
also don't. I wouldn't put it past this movie. It
Sure,
did not have a big
yeah.
budget.
Again, it's almost like
yeah.
why do you have this music at all? It's almost scarier without music.
See,
You know?
and I
Yeah.
think like I kind of to kind of jump on what William was saying. I don't know. It's interesting because it's a character study on someone who has no character, like this,
Yeah.
this Ed Carver guy. Is just there, and so like, but I think it makes it like with Cheryl Dempsey, the teen that he meets. Eventually, she gets rescued and they save her, and then we have her final interview with her.
Yeah.
And it's just so awkward. Like you can tell, like that actor who's Stacy Chabowski.
Yeah, she is good.
Dude,
is,
that
like,
last scene was
that's like
awful.
the only like
that was
real
so
like
hardcore.
oh, this is like kind of what the movie is,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
bleak as hell.
That made me
yeah.
feel
Yeah.
sick. I felt like
Yeah,
I wanted to turn it off.
that
I was like, oh my god.
it's so funny because I saw
It's
this
kind of like
movie
Martyrs,
back.
reminded
I
me of
guess in,
Martyrs.
back in 2014 when it first got released or whatever, 2017. And I haven't seen it since because I like didn't know if it would be ruined on a second viewing, but I also it's intense, so you don't really. It's not a movie you put on every Halloween.
Yeah.
know?
Wait, which movie
Yeah,
is it?
it's not fun at all. You know?
And so the Poughkeepsie Tapes, William.
Oh, I thought you said 2017. I was like 2017,
Uh,
but you said 2017.
Okay, well, if you had listened earlier, that's when it got released at the
Oh,
right. It
okay.
took 10
Sorry,
years
teacher.
to actually come. Yeah.
My bad. I'll do my listening
Yeah.
next time.
Prof. Sorry,
Oh.
Prof.
end. Yeah, that's now you're gonna watch the Poughkeepsie Tapes for real. Doesn't even make sense. Oh man, I forget what I was saying. Oh, but I saw it, and then you like because of how much it's packing into the short time. I literally forgot everything except for that last scene with Cheryl. And that last scene with Cheryl is really the only reason I wanted to check out this movie again.
Yeah.
Because
that
it's
is
so
disturbing,
good,
yeah.
and it's so like she does, and it's literally like the camera's just on her, and so it's just her acting, and she manages to pull it off. And I don't even want to spoil it, but it's really good. And I would say that it kind of makes the movie because Cheryl ends up becoming the de facto person you care about just because
Yeah.
she's the only normal person who, like, I mean, it's not that you don't care about the detective professor, but like he's
Yeah.
not in trouble. you know,
Right,
like,
right. There's no
he's
drama
never gonna
here,
get hurt. And then I will say the other really good thing about it is, and this is where I do think it goes, where I think it's self-aware, because at the very end, and it makes me sad that it didn't get released in theaters. At the very end, they're talking to like the law professor, and he's like, "Yeah, and the killer, he loves attention, and I can tell you if this movie's playing in theaters,
Oh
he's
yeah.
gonna be right there in the theater."
We're gonna be watching all the
And like
screenings.
he's getting closer, you know, he's like, and then he could be right next to you.
And MGM
It's
was
such
like,
a
"No, he won't
ridiculous
be."
way to end the movie.
Yeah.
But I think it almost gives a level of like that level of brevity where it's like it's so silly that it's kind of like, okay, this movie knows that it's not a
Yeah.
real movie, you know, like it's not a documentary. And so I don't know. I would think like maybe this is blasphemous, but if I had a choice between the Blair Witch Project and watching this one again, I'm gonna pick this movie. I feel like it's not as shaky.
I don't know. I'd still go with Blair Witch. I mean, I don't even like the Blair Witch that much. I would say if you want to watch a movie on Tubi that's not really about 9/11, do watch Dear Zoe. That is,
What?
that's my pick.
Oh, is that the one that ends weird?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like what they were doing the whole time was like they were just like asking themselves like, how far can we push this? Like, how far can we go?
Yeah, like
and,
what,
I feel
what
like that's
can
like
we
their
get away with
self-awareness
on this budget, but like low budget, but make it, and it is effective in that way.
I thought
I do
so.
think it's like.
But William, let me ask you, why do you think, like, do you think it was an exercise in, I guess, brutality, like trying to figure it out how far they could go?
I don't
Or
really
do you
know.
think they were trying to say something?
Well, I mean, so I guess people think about true crime differently now than they did back in 2007. But I still feel like if you watch true crime in 2007, you would still probably have some thoughts of like, oh my gosh, like this is
Right.
so
It's
weird that we're watching all of this.
blossoming then.
And so
Yeah.
whenever you brought that up, I feel like that's probably the exact reason why they made this movie. And I remember like, I think it was like Ari Aster was talking about like in his movies, he kind of sees them as like comedies. He like just like wants to see like how far he can put, like what's the most like messed
Yeah.
up thing you could possibly think that like a family could go through. And it's like, then he makes his stuff. And it's like, what is a true crime movie? Like how far can we take audiences? Like how
What's the
far will
most
they stay
extreme
with
version?
us? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
get that.
in a way, it's kind of like if you're going with like a true crime thing, it's like maybe that's why they didn't show more gore and stuff like that. Like, because it's like, even though there's nudity, which that's a different thing, but it's like, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's like sort of like funny games in a way, where it's just like, how long will this audience stay with this? And it's like, do you feel weird that you're getting thrills out of this? And like I did, I was like, I had my window open when I was watching it, and I was just like, man, if someone walks by and like there's like this girl chained in this basement, like obviously it's a horror movie, but I was still like self-conscious watching. I was like, oh, this is, I don't want anyone to know that I'm seeing this. You know what I mean? But I want to continue watching it.
It's funny to bring up Texas Chainsaw because we actually like, we reviewed every Texas Chainsaw movie. You could see it all here. But
As always.
we kind of when you talk about like, this is like kind of like just quickly going over that. It's like the first one is like, the dehumanization of the 70s, and then the second one's like, oh, let's do it again, but as a comedy, blah, blah, blah. And there's all these kind of different spins on every Texas Chainsaw. And eventually they kind of just lose the plot. And we got to the Jessica Biel one. And you basically, Andrew, came to the conclusion, you're like, it's almost like a negation of having a point. It's like we're doing it just to do it. It's like this is purely in service of like making money, Yeah. But that is kind of one of those things.
That was
where
a good
like,
point I made.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the most insightful podcast moments we've had on this show.
Absolutely.
I know.
And to be fair to this movie, I will say that like true crime has gotten ridiculous in terms of like the documentaries, but the genre of true crime is older than TV. Like the Helter Skelter was like a huge. It was like one of the most. I think it's the most best-selling book after the Bible.
Yeah. Oh, is
even
that
now.
true?
And so
that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I know it was for a while. I don't know if it's still, but I mean, and then if you read like The Family by Rupert Sanders, that was like made in response to Helter Skelter, and like the guy being like, "You didn't get enough right." And so there's always been this kind of like, is this for exploitation or is this for actual like documentation? Like, what is the point of revealing the inner workings of the Manson family? But there's also that second tier to it where it's like, yeah, I mean, writing a book about the Manson family might be morally gray, but what about all the people reading that book and buying that book and consuming that book? Like, are they morally gray? And I think like this movie's maybe trying to get you to confront that.
Yeah.
To yourself,
I think it is,
like,
for sure.
Why am I watching this?
Yeah.
But I don't know if it gives you enough of an answer of what the film.
I get. Yeah, it's almost too vibes based to be like, oh, and this is the point. And I'm not saying every movie has to like yell the point at you, but I do think part of it is almost like you need more than just. Oh, I would actually say too, and we didn't even really touch on this. I guess we kind of obliquely did, but he really only he does kill men, but only to get to women. He really just kills and tortures women.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like as social media, like the Andrew Tate stuff, gets like worse and worse, it's almost like, oh, this is another way this movie's almost accidentally saying
Right.
something about the moment that maybe wasn't there in 2007, but now is really there, like in front of everyone's face. So I don't know. I guess I'll give it credit for like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to give it. I mean, men have been serial killing women since Jack. the
Yeah.
Ripper.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
It's
common. Yeah.
it's so specifically like a like woman based.
So it's just like, you know how in the last year men have started to hate women? It's like, well,
just recently, feminism is
This word
taking
misogyny
some
has been
blows
floating
from the
around
manosphere.
lately. I'm like really getting into it.
I think Obama invented it.
You know what? Weirdly, I did think of though when I was watching it. Do you remember the old Red Letter Media prequel reviews?
Oh yeah, where they had the.
It's like the funny, which don't really hold up today's skits, but played
Yeah.
completely straight in for 80 minutes. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Kinda
is
that.
funny because they took those skits out because of the reception.
Right, because they're like, oh, this isn't that funny.
What were the
It's,
skits? Were they just like super?
It
was like a-
or something.
he's like reviewing the Star Wars prequels, but he's also like doing serial killer stuff to women in between, and that's like
kidnap the girl.
the dichotomy is the joke. Like,
What?
oh, what if a serial killer was also a movie reviewer?
Oh,
You had to have a gimmick
okay. I
back
got
in
you, I
the
got
early
you.
YouTube days,
Yeah.
and that was.
And
the-
I will say, and
yeah.
see, that's the other weird thing where it's like I do want to give the filmmakers credit because that's a good example of even back then when I like that was one of the reasons I didn't watch the Red Letter Media reviews for so long because they start with that skit, and I was like, oh, this is gross. Like these guys are because like especially on YouTube now, you can tell. Like the other day, I accidentally clicked on a review and it was like, Ironheart is both woke and sexist against men, and I was like, I don't need to read this. I don't need to see this review. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't need this to ever be
Right.
recommended to me
Yeah.
again. Yeah,
And so, but it is that kind of like they're kind of pushing that forward, and it's like, I don't know if it was intentional, but it kind of feels like it should be, or if they're trying a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is. I can definitely see why MGM was like, we have no idea how to market this, even though they.
Yeah.
I do think if it had gone, like, if it had been released to the public, it either would have like grossed people way too out, or it would have like I don't see it becoming a Blair Witch style hit. It's
No,
just
this,
I
this,
think-
should,
I think
this,
because
this
it's
is made
not-
for Shudder. This is not made for a wide release.
it's
Yeah,
not
that's
like
crazy.
fun. Like I don't like the Blair Witch, but there's an obvious progression of the Blair Witch. This
Oh, you don't like
movie
the Blair
is
Witch at all? In our first one?
Just
from,
no.
from
Oh.
bored to sleeping.
Go
Yeah.
check our Blair Witch 2 review here to
Let's
see my
check out the
thoughts on the
Blair
Blair
Witch
Witch.
I don't remember. Like the Blair Witch is cool.
Yeah,
think
it's
it-
all right.
I only saw the
It's
Blair
not that
Witch like
scary, but
5
it's pretty
years
good.
ago.
Yeah. Oh, for
I
real.
saw it like recently, and it was more like, oh, when you know it's all fake, it's more like, oh, I could just tell the bad ad libbing versus like
Yeah.
being drawn into the world. You know what I mean?
I never didn't think it was real. I never thought it was real, and I saw it
Yeah.
in theaters.
Oh, you saw it?
I knew
okay.
enough.
That's cool.
I
didn't
think
see
Blair
it
Witch
until I
2
was,
is
like, in high
better.
school.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, I love Blair Witch 2. Go watch Blair Witch 2, guys. Another
because I love
recommendation.
Mike Weston from Burn.
But
Notice.
I do think if it had come out in 2007, I think it would have been forgotten pretty easily because of
Totally.
like you think of the
yeah,
last broadcast.
Absolutely.
Nobody talks about the last broadcast.
I mean, no one even really
Um,
talks about the Blair Witch anymore. Like, I mean, it's kind of like mentioned every once in a while, but no one has. It's never like, oh, dude, and also the Blair Witch. It's kind of like, oh, that was
Yeah,
a crazy
there's
point
nobody
in
like-
time.
Yeah, you still see like Chucky, and you see even Freddy, who hasn't made a movie in forever, come out on Halloween. And I think that's maybe why, because it's hard to. There's no actual Blair Witch to be like. I remember,
That's
It was-
yeah,
I don't know what it was
yeah.
called,
You never
but-
even see them. Yeah. Well, spoiler alert.
but there was like McFarlane Toys released a Blair Witch toy, and it just looked like a toy of a witch. And I was
Yeah.
like, what are you doing, Tom McFarlane? You know
Right.
what that movie's about?
It could have been like a black box,
I mean,
an
that's
empty
his
box.
MO.
Yeah.
But I do think what helped this movie was the fact that it got put like it was able to build that reputation of being too scary to be released, and I think that because of its hardcore, intensive subject matter, I think if it had been like a funny, like slapsticky movie or even one with more jokes, he would have been like, "Why did they take so long to release this?" But because
Yeah.
it's so intense and serious, it kind of plays into its own mythology, and I think that helped the movie in general. But I would still say to go check it out, especially if you like horror. If you don't like extreme horror, probably skip this one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I felt
It's
grimy
rough
the whole time for
watch.
sure. I
Yeah.
felt weird.
But if-
You will not have fun. It's like This is not a put on a party movie. It's like a put it on to someone to show like
Yeah,
make
watch this
them
with like
Let's-
one
be like,
friend.
Yeah.
look how screwed up this is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say that I've had people, even family members, be like, "Hey Andrew, can you show me something that's really fucked up?"
Yeah.
And then I give them recommendation. They're like, "Hey, don't give me any more."
Yeah.
Right. That's not what I
Like
meant.
you went too far. So you
Pulling
have
an
to, like,
audition.
on,
on
on
someone.
the scale, yeah, like on the scale of like American Psycho or Texas Chainsaw and like Audition.
Yeah.
This is like it's like closer to Audition, but it's still like here.
Yeah.
You're still on the good level. You'll be okay.
Yeah, but you're also like, I feel like, I don't know. Well, we'll get into it later, but you know, I feel like
Yeah,
Audition's at least like a story.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
just-
I would say I think that like whatever like
I mean, we're
the
just
thing,
talking about intensity. Yeah.
the thing about like found footage that like I mean I don't think this is just my own opinion. I think a lot of people feel this way, but like that's like what's so scary about it is like how low budget and like gross it feels. So like I would say like Audition, I feel intense and it's like crazy, but like this one feels more like it seeps into my skin more. Like it feels more like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm there in a different way because it's like not cinematic
yeah.
at all, and it makes me feel like
Right.
this is like happening across the street, which is like what's so I would put this over Audition. I think this made me feel worse than Audition
You
did.
would.
Yeah,
Oh.
100%.
I kind of see it. Like, is it because like Audition, you can at least follow like a plot,
Yeah.
and there's like characters going
Yeah.
through it. This
Yeah.
is just.
Well, I was gonna do Imprint, but I don't think anyone knew who Imprint was, and this movie's not.
Well,
I don't know if I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Prince rough.
But yeah, but no, check it out. I not also not all the movies are gonna be this intense. So if you don't like intense movies, don't think that's all it's gonna be for this month. As a matter of fact, next week it's not even gonna be kind of intense. I mean, they're all gonna be horror, since according to our Driven review, you do not like those. But we will have a bunch of cool stuff. So check it out. Tell us. Oh, if you've seen the Poughkeepsie Tapes, tell us at the bottom A what you thought, and B what you think the movie's trying to say, or if you think it's important. Maybe it's just he's just presenting you with how true crime is, and he wants you to come up with your own decision. Sometimes that happens.
I mean, that's,
Let us know
that's
in
my
the
opinion.
comments. But we'll see you guys, and we'll see you guys on the Band Squad. I just thought of a
Oh,
new-
boom.
yeah. See you guys next week.
Bye.